Hello everyone, Professor Toybox here along with Wreck-It Ralph, and I'm taking a short break from my Dark Forces series to catch up on viewer requests. Today's request comes from Mighty287 on YouTube, who wants to know how to create a toy box hub with doors that link to other toy boxes. He wasn't sure how to use the toy box door, when to save, and which toy box file he should be overwriting, and he was running into a lot of the toy box door bugs, which I'll talk about some of those in this video. But as soon as I read his request, I immediately thought of the power terminal in Wreck-It Ralph, which looks like a huge train station and serves as a hub to connect all the different video game worlds in the arcade. So I thought I would see if I could recreate that location in the toy box. It wasn't easy, considering there are no building pieces that look even close to what was in the movie. The only thing I had to work with was the basic blocks, and I did the best I could with those. It doesn't look as nice as I would like, but I think it'll do. So in the movie, those towers there are actually the plugs where the power cords from the arcade games plug in, and those metal pieces are the arcade plug prongs, and the thing in the middle there is the screw for the plug. The bottom prong is actually a tunnel, a subway tunnel that leads into the arcade game that's plugged in there. Oh, the townspeople are playing the toy box games. That's pretty cool. Anyway, there's a black bar above the door, and normally there's text there that tells you what game is plugged into that. But of course, I can't put any text there, so I brought out some interior pieces, namely these arcade games, to tell you what's plugged in to these particular slots. That's pretty cool how the townspeople play the arcade games. Anyway, this prong is where the toy box will load, and I've got the arcade game here for Fix-It Felix Jr., and that's the game that I want to plug into this tunnel. And so if we go down the tunnel and come up the ramp here, this is the subway tunnel that will lead into that game. And if you come up here, I want to be able to connect to that toy box. And I'll show you what I've got here by way of my saves. So I have the Wreck-It Ralph hub. This is the toy box I'm currently in, and a backup of it. And I've got my Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box and a backup of that. So I have two toy boxes that are separate saves in my list. And they're not connected in any way, shape, or form. And I'd like to be able to connect these if I can. And so what I want to do as I come out of there is we'll come down here to the drawers, and I'm going to select the toy box hub down in the gameplay toys drawer, or the toy box door rather, and we'll drop that right there for now. And if we come into the properties for this, by default the destination is the toy box that we are in, and if I select that, that brings up three options. New toy box. So if I do that, that will create a brand new toy box within this save file. And so I'll have multiple toy boxes in here, the hub and whatever else I decide to create in here. And I could have created the Fix-It Felix Jr. this way. I did this actually with my Return to Atlantis toy box in my Random Dungeons series. I also did this with the Scarif Citadel Tower interior in the Dark Forces series recently, so you've seen that option before. And again, that embeds another toy box inside this save file. And once you have multiple toy boxes in here, you can link to an existing toy box. And I've actually only got two saves in here. There's the Wreck-It Ralph hub and the interior that I brought in. This is one of the toy box bugs, is this level 3 and this interior don't actually exist. I used to have a different save file here from the first experiment that I had that you haven't seen. And I overwrote this file, but for some reason it thinks these two are still in the list. But really there's only these two. So this is one of the bugs that I ran into with this toy box store. So it's always a good idea to, when you create a new toy box, don't overwrite an existing one. Save a different one. So anyway, so the interior is the toy box I had created to bring out those arcade games. And then there's a third option here, which is Import Toy Box. And I'm going to select that. That brings us to our toy box save list. And I can come down to my Fix-It Felix Jr. game. And again, right now these are separate saves, and they're actually going to stay that way. I could not find any way to link together two completely separate toy box saves. What this option is going to do, this import option, is it's going to take my Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box and make a copy of it. And if I select that, that's the world that's in there that I want to load. And so I'm going to select that, import and link this toy box, yes. And so now this is making a copy of that toy box and bringing it inside this one. And now this door will lead over there. And so I can exit out of these properties, and now I have my door. And before I do anything else, because once I go through that door, it's actually going to unload this toy box, and it's going to load up the Fix-It Felix Jr. copy that it made. And so I want to make sure I save. And I'm in my toy box hub, my Wreck-It Ralph hub, so I'm going to go ahead and save that. And overwrite that, because that's the toy box that I'm in. There we go. So now the game is saved, so let's go over to Fix-It Felix Jr. And I'll fast forward so you don't have to watch me load this, and I'll meet you there in just a moment. Okay, here we are in my Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box, and I've done my best to recreate the actual Fix-It Felix Jr. arcade game, at least the scenery from it. And there's the window that leads to the outside world, and Ralph's brick pile is over there. And right now you can see it brought me in here to the starting pad for this, which is fine. But the train station that leads back to the Wreck-It Ralph hub is actually back over here. And so we'll head over this way. And so ideally I'd like to come into this toy box here. And this is also where we're going to leave and go back to the other toy box. So what we're going to need to do that is another toy box door. So I'm going to put that right here temporarily. And if we come into the properties for this, the destination, you'll notice, is Wreck-It Ralph Hub. So this is still the file that I have loaded. I'm actually in the Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box within my Wreck-It Ralph Hub save file. So the destination by default is the main hub toy box, the one I first created when I started that toy box file. And so that's where we're at there. So there's nothing really to change here. That will lead me back over to that hub. But I want to make a change to the toy box door in the hub so that it'll bring me here versus over there in front of the tower. And so we're going to drop down another Creativitoy here. And I'm actually going to come up here to the Creativitoys drawer. And I'm going to drop down a locator. And I think I'd like to come out about right here. And I'm going to zoom in here and look and see there's a little blue dot that's on the locator on one corner. And that right now is facing that direction, which is good. I think that's the direction I'd like to be facing. So I don't have to rotate that. Yep, we got to set the properties for this locator. So we'll come down to properties, and there's a door destination tag. And I'm going to set this to 1. And that will be the ID for that locator inside this toy box, my Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box. And I don't really want to interact with that door directly. I'd like to be able to push a button, and I'm going to do this over in the hub as well. So we're going to put down a button over here, over, let's see. Yeah, we'll put it by the train station over here. Because eventually I'm going to hide this door. So a new logic connection when pressed. We're going to change the level. And I'll hide that door in a moment. We're actually going to come back here shortly. There we go. So now we're all set up on this side. Before we go through that door, though, we need to save this toy box, because when we go back to the hub, it's going to unload Fix-It Felix Jr., and it's going to load the hub. And I'm actually inside, as I said, this save file. That has not changed. I'm still inside here. When we imported the toy box, it made a copy of this one. So except for the copy, we have not touched that file. We are still inside this file. And so I'm going to go ahead and select that. And you'll see it's overwriting that file, but there's also a level name. That's the toy box within that save file that we're currently in. And so we're going to go ahead and save. So we're always going to be saving to Wreck-It Ralph Hub. Doesn't matter what toy boxes we import. That's the toy box we started with, and that's where all the imports are going. Okay, so now we can come over here and test the button. Travel to Wreck-It Ralph Hub, yes. And I will fast forward and meet you there in a moment. Okay, here we are back in the Wreck-It Ralph Hub. And as you see, it's put us on the start pad here, which is not where I want to be, but we're back in this toy box anyway. Oh, hi, Felix. So we're going to come back up here, and I'm going to make 2 changes. So the first thing I want to do is we put down a locator inside Fix-It Felix Jr. So I'm going to hook that up to this door. And so for this door is going to go to the Fix-It Felix Jr. toy box within this save file. And I want it to go to destination locator number 1 in that toy box. And now that will take us not to the starting pad there, but it'll take us to that locator. And I'd like to put down a button again. And we'll go ahead and connect that up so that new logic connection, when it's pressed, will come to the door and change the level. Excuse me. So now I'm done with this door, and I'm going to go ahead and move this and hide it. Now I'm going to put it down here below the terrain. And so now, when you come up the ramp, you see the button here, and it'll look like it's actually invoking the subway train, as you'll see in a moment, not a toy box door. So now, just like we did in the other toy box, I want to go ahead and when we come back, I want to be up here, not down on the starting pad down there at the end of that hall. And so I'm going to drop a locator here. And again, we'll come down here and look, and that little blue dot is facing the right direction, so that's good. And we'll come into the properties for that. And set the door destination tag. And I can set this to 1. That will be number 1 inside the hub toy box inside of here. But since I don't want to confuse you, I'll go ahead and set this to number 2, just so you can see they are different. But I could set that to 1 because that only has to be unique within the toy box that you're currently in. So I can have multiple number 1s as long as they're in separate toy boxes within my save file. But that one I've set to number 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and get out of Spark mode. And before I push that button, we need to do another save. And again, the hub is what I'm working with. That's the save file I first loaded that we started with. That's where all my imports are coming into. And you can see this is the main toy box for that save file, and we're in it, so there's no level name here to save. Wreck-It Ralph Hub is also the name of the level within that toy box save. Okay, and there we are. So with the toy box door gone, you come up this ramp and you come to the button and it says travel to Fix-It Felix Jr. And to me that looks like you're invoking the subway, so I kind of like that. So not having the toy box door here feels more like you're pushing the button to activate the subway train. And we're going to say continue, and I'll fast forward again and meet you over there. So here we are inside Fix-It Felix Jr., and as you can see, it placed us back here by the subway train. So that locator connection that we just made to the other toy box door in the hub is working great. It put me where I had expected to be. So that's a good thing. So now we want to do the same thing to this door. And so I'm going to come into the properties for this toy box door. And I'm going to set the destination locator tag to the tag number that's in the other toy box. And that's, again, number 2. And now that I've set that, I can go ahead and move this below the train and get it out of the way. So we go off and explore, la-da-da-da-da. We come back. There's the button to activate the subway train. But before I push that, I need to save one more time. And again, we're saving Wreck-It Ralph Hub because that's the toy box save that I'm inside. And the level name for the toy box that I'm saving inside of this save file is Fix-It Felix Jr., so that's all good. And we'll go ahead and save, and there we go. All right. So now, come back and push the button. Travel back to Wreck-It Ralph Hub. Yes. And I'll fast forward again and meet you over there one more time where we'll wrap this up. And we're back, and as you can see, it put us back here by the subway train. So that's a really good thing. I like that, although I think I might like to move that locator back so I can actually see the train. So maybe about there would be a good spot to put that locator. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. That gives you some context when you come back, that you're actually right there with the train. And we'll slide that back a little bit to make room for the camera. And there we go. So when we come back, we'll actually be about right here. And that'll be good. So one more time, I'm going to go ahead and save this. Again, I'm saving my file. And there we go. So that's how you'd build a toy box hub world. The thing to remember is that when you import a toy box, it makes a copy of the original toy box and embeds it inside the toy box that you're in. So always overwrite the toy box save file that you started from, in my case the hub. And in case you're wondering, what do you do if you link to a toy box that has multiple saves in it? Let's just go ahead and tinker a little bit. So if I were to drop another toy box door out here, and let's connect over to, for example, let's see, I got a toy box down here, Dark Forces mission number 1. I know this has 2 toy boxes in it. There's mission number 1, there's the Citadel Tower interior, and I've got a third toy box here, which is the actual interior toy box that allowed me to bring out the interior toys for the tower interior, and that consisted of the Death Star hologram and so on. So if I were to pick one of these and select it and continue, it would actually make a copy of just the toy box that I've got selected, which in this case is Citadel Tower Interior. It would not bring over all 3. And so any toy box doors that are in here that link back to that toy box, I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work because it doesn't bring over this toy box, just this one. So I may have to set up that door again inside there to import this toy box over. So I think it's a multiple import step. I'd import this one, go into that toy box, fix that toy box door to import, and import that one so that I would go there. So I think that's how you do that if you have a toy box with multiple levels, as I do in my Dark Forces mission number 1. And I went ahead and just addressed that question because I know that's already been asked of me before, and so I wanted to make sure I covered that. But anyway, oh, it stuck me up on the roof. I hate that bug. I don't know why it does that. It didn't do that back over here. That's kind of strange. See, I can come out over here, and it doesn't put me on the ceiling there. That's weird. But anyway, I kind of like how this has turned out. I've got this little hub here, and I've got doors for some of the other arcade games. And I'm really excited about this. I may have to go ahead and create a Hero's Duty toy box, and a Sugar Rush toy box, and a Tron toy box, and connect them all together and be able to run through here and play different arcade games. I really like that. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video, or at least found it helpful. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to my channel or sign up on my blog so you don't miss my next video. For now, Ralph and I are signing off from our arcade hub, and we'll see you next time.